Recently, the IRS put out some updates on required minimum distributions that are due for 2024 and 2025 calendar years. Before we get into these latest clarifications, let's begin by discussing which accounts are and are not subject to RMDs. For starters, all IRAs are subject to RMDs. That's traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs, and simple IRAs. All 401ks and 403bs are also subject to RMDs, although you can postpone these RMDs so long as you're working. Roth IRAs do not have RMDs, and starting in 2024, Roth 401ks do not have RMDs either. All right, let's briefly touch on when you have to take RMDs. For years, you had to take your RMD by April 1st following the year in which you turned 70 and a half. With the passage of Secure Act 2.0, however, that age was moved to 73, with an additional increase to 75 by 2033. So that means that if you turn 73 this year, your deadline to withdraw your RMD is April 1st of the following calendar year. Every year thereafter, the deadline shifts to December 31st, so if you delay your initial RMD to April 1st of the year after you turn 73, you would be taking 2 RMDs that year. All right, let's get into the meat of these updates. What happens if you miss your RMD? And what is the statute of limitations on missed RMDs? Well, we know that historically, when you missed your RMD, you paid a 50% penalty on whatever you were supposed to withdraw but did not. But the IRS never really enforced this penalty. Even they knew that this rule was absurd and insanely punitive. It generally affected older seniors who weren't accustomed to having to take these withdrawals and may have been easily confused by all the rules. But if they filed Form 5329 and made up for back RMDs, the IRS would waive the penalty just about 100% of the time. The new regulation says that if you miss an RMD, you now pay a penalty of 25% of whatever you were supposed to take out but did not. And that penalty goes down to 10% if you take those required minimum distributions within 2 years. Now, historically, unless you did file Form 5329, the IRS could go back an unlimited number of years and charge you that 50% penalty. So not only was the 50% penalty absurdly high, but the IRS could go back an unlimited number of years to collect those penalties. The problem with this approach was that most IRA owners that were missing their RMDs didn't realize they were missing their RMDs, and they had no idea there was a penalty for doing so. So they had no reason to file Form 5329 to request a penalty waiver. As a result, the statute of limitations simply never began. This meant the IRS could, in theory, go back an unlimited number of years to assess that 50% penalty. Secure Act 2.0 changed this policy moving forward. As of 2022, the statute of limitations is 3 years from the date of the filing of your personal tax return. However, that statute of limitation goes up to 6 years when your return understates more than 25% of actual gross income. Furthermore, there is no statute of limitations for fraud or willful attempts to get out of paying a tax. While this was a positive change, this provision is not retroactive, so any years of missed RMDs prior to 2022 could still be subject to the old 50% penalty regime. So what are my thoughts on all of this? Will they actually assess the 25% or the 10% penalty? My gut tells me yes. The IRS clearly thought that the 50% penalty was insanely high and unenforceable, so this reduction in penalty may be their way of saying, okay, 50% had no teeth. Let's try something that is not so punitive, but that is actually enforceable. All right, a few words of parting advice. If you want to avoid all this confusion over penalties and various statutes of limitations, the best policy is to just make sure you're taking your RMDs at the appropriate time. And the best way to do this is to consolidate all your IRAs into one account. And once you have all your IRAs in one place, it's going to be a lot easier to make the correct RMD calculation. In summary, RMD ages have been moved to 73 and will eventually move to 75. You no longer have to take RMDs on any Roth 401k accounts. The penalty for missed RMDs has dropped from 50% to 25% and can go as low as 10% if you take those missed RMDs within 2 years. And the IRS now has a 3 or 6 year statute of limitation that applies to missed RMDs starting in tax year 22 and beyond. Folks, my upcoming book, The Guru Gap, How America's Financial Gurus Are Leading You Astray and How to Get Back on Track, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. Take the opportunity to order your copy today. By the way, in the next 10 years, I'm looking to put 1 million Americans on the road to the 0% tax bracket. If you would like some help implementing a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement that shields you from the impact of higher taxes down the road, head on over to davemcknight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to an advisor in the Power Zero Network that has been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power Zero advisor, head over to powerzero.com and opt into my free video series. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.